Hello everyone, this is R93 Sniper. Now, I've been working with 3ds Max for a while, doing a lot of porting stuff for Halo Custom Edition, using a lot of these custom assets, not really custom assets, but Bungie's assets or 343's assets using Adjust. However, I noticed that a lot of people don't actually show how to use the maps specifically they don't show how to use the maps in Max or Maya or whatever program that you use. So I'm actually going to do a small tutorial on two different things. Three actually. I'm going to show you how to use set of materials for the Scanline editor, how to use it for the mental ray renderer, and how to set up some basic rendering parameters just so that you can set up your scene to look nice and shiny if you want to do some sort of animated machinima or if you just want to set up a scene like I usually do. So over here I have two models. I have the Didact from Halo 4, and I have a custom ODST I made using pieces from Halo 3, ODST, Reach, and some custom pieces. So let's get started. I'll start with ODST for now, and I'll hide the Didact. Press M to open up your material editor, and I'm going to apply this material that I actually have set up for him already. So everything's black right now, but we'll start off with just putting down the body material. So go here, hit standards if you want for Scanline editor, renderer, my bad, and then open up this maps subtab. You'll notice how everything just turns this gray color, which is actually supposed to happen because there's no color that's just being set right now. So what you want to do is set up first is set the diffuse color. So hit the none button and click bitmap. Navigate to wherever your bitmap is. Mine's actually over here. Double click it, and you'll notice that it appears here. Hit this button to go back to parent, and you'll notice that it doesn't actually show up here. But if I, for instance, hit render, it does actually show up. All that, I'm actually going to quickly change the render background so you can see it as opposed to background. So you'll notice it shows up here in the render, but it doesn't show up in the viewport. What you want to do is you want to hit this button called Show Shaded Material in Viewport. Activate it, and ta-da, it appears. Now, you'll notice that if it's just this, there's a lot of detail which isn't actually there, and it looks very flat and boring. So what you want to do is you want to set up a bump map. Now, in Halo 1, you don't get bump maps as normal bumps, you get them as just detail maps. In Halo 2, 3, and so on and so forth, the engine actually handles them as normal maps. So when you rip them, they'll also show up as normal maps. So you want to go to bump, set this to 100, and then click the none button. Now normally you would think you would hit the bitmap button and just go to the normal bump, and that'll work. But that's not actually true, because it actually does mess up how Max interpolates the bump map. So you want to hit the normal bump right here. Hit OK. And then there's two slots here, as well as these things. This is the base normal map, and this is any additional bump mapping you want. These can be grayscale, they can be normals, either or, they work, but I usually don't touch these because I don't need to. These are actually going to help specifically because when you look at a normal map, you'll notice that instead of handling it wherein it looks like it's popping out, it actually looks the exact opposite, where it looks like there's cavities. So these are usually just set there to switch those up, namely for games such like game engine like Source and stuff, in which you need to use it the other way around. And these are just how it handles where you're looking at the bump map. I usually just keep it tangent because that seems to give me the best results. So hit normal, bitmap, and navigate to your normal map. Mine is actually over here. Normals, back up. Now you'll notice nothing changes here. Once again, if I hit render, there's actually quite a bit of difference. One of the better ways to tell is right here around the hips. You can see not only these plates over here get more detail, but the fabric seems to be popping out a lot more than before. So if you want it to actually show up in the viewport like that, there's a way to do that. However, I will warn you now that it actually does impact your processor quite a bit. So if you don't have that great of a computer, I would suggest not using it. But in Max 2012, 2011 and so on, you go to materials, you list the materials with maps, and you'll notice how the material just changed. If I adjust the bump map, you'll be able to see the difference. Now you also want to set up a specular level, but since the body for this doesn't actually have a normal specular level, I'm just going to copy this. This is here. And you'll notice this. You want to set up the gloss. I'll go on more to explain that in a bit. But let's do something else. Let's go to the helmet this time. So as before, we go here, standard, quickly set up diffuse color. Show it. Normal bump. Bitmap. Find the normals. Back up. Set to 100. You won't see it because I didn't set materials. And now you'll notice the difference. So, as before, there is a difference. Now, specular level is what you want to use here. Specular level indicates to max how much gloss or shine you want something to have. So, you go to specular level and hit bitmap. Normally, because most of the time you'll end up having a specular map either as the alpha channel for a map or as a separate bitmap if you do what I do. But if you use a jutted to export as a TIFF format, what you want to do is you want to click here and then set it to alpha. And you'll notice how it gets shiny. That's for a different reason. So you want to hit alpha and that'll end up setting it up. But the way that I have this set up is a little bit different because in ODST the spec maps are actually separate. So set the glossiness to 60 and you'll notice that there's, instead of having that ridiculously bright shine to it, it's slightly different. It has this more subtle gloss shine to it rather than having it to back at 10 where it's just there. So that's that. Now let me go to the visor real quick because I think this is something that not a lot of people know how to do. Go to standard, maps, set up bitmap as you normally would. My visor is actually a completely different bitmap specifically because this is actually the reach visor put into the ODST helmet. So bear with me for a few moments as I set this up. Note that reach has a lot of bitmaps. Now this is what I was actually saying about bitmaps. See, you'll notice that there's a bit of opacity here when you just show it up. So you want to put this, and again, into alpha because that's actually where that opacity, when looking at through TIFF formats, is actually the alpha channel. And usually Windows will say, oh look, it's a TIFF format and it has an alpha. That alpha must be opacity because TIFF formats have opacity in them. Though that's not actually the case. Now, as you'll notice, in Halo 1 especially, the visor has that really nice orangey sheen to it. But this just has a very flat reflection to it. So what you want to do is actually set up a cube map. In setting up a cube map, I know Maniac did a tutorial on how to do this, but I think it's easier just to show one that I've done already. Go to reflection, and check it off or whatever. Click this and hit reflect, refract. And it'll give you this really weird setup. But you want to hit source from file, and then you want to find the file that you have in it. I actually have the Halo 4 Carbine's what's it called? Cube map set up, so I can just use that. And it does show up similarly to how it does in Halo 1. So you want to click one of these, hit bitmap, find it, and then just have it set up. I actually split the cube map up already, so you're going to have to learn how to do that. Just assign them. Oops. Yeah. Right. Front. Back. Back up a little bit, and let me just render that out. And you will notice that there's a pretty okay cube map going on. But it also looks too strong, so I usually set these out to maybe like 50 for a visor, where as opposed to any other part of the body, I'd set it to maybe 20, if not lower. Now, another thing you want to try to understand how to do is decals. Decals are interesting. So let's go here, standard. And these are just decals that are across the body in different places. So you want to first find your bitmap. In this case, I actually have to go over here, decals, bitmaps. You're going to see decals diffuse. If I show it up, you'll notice that they show up, but there's actually some sort of background thing going on with them. And if you render them out, it shows. So render out. It's all messy. Also, you'll notice how the color of the bitmap seems a little worn out rather than being strong. What you can do, there's two ways to settle this. One, set this and then diffuse and just set to black. However, the reason it's doing this is specifically because of the alpha channel. Because it's a TIFF format and it'll automatically recognize it as being, oh look, it has an alpha channel, it must be either opacity or color. So what you can do is you can actually go to alpha source and hit none. And you'll notice it goes back to normal. Now, to actually get rid of this whole, what's it called, this background that is showing up in the decal textures, you can go to opacity selection, hit bitmap, then find the same material. Back up. You'll notice it's okay-ish, but it doesn't actually show the entire thing. Like, it doesn't erase the entire background. It only erases part of it, and actually erases part of the texture itself. That's not what you want to happen. The alpha channel for decal textures are always opacity. So, what you want to do is go to mono channel output, and hit it as alpha. And you'll notice it's actually showing them properly. And if I render it out, it doesn't seem worn out, as opposed to if I had RGB intensity set up, where the background still shows. And that's basic. That's most of the basic stuff you want just to have stuff like this set up. So let me unhide the didact, and let's work on him. Now, working with him, I actually have his material set up to be used with mental ray. However, to use mental ray first, you actually have to set it up. So press F10 to go to your render setup. Scroll all the way down, assign renderer, then click 3 dots, and set it to mental ray render. Either double click or hit OK, either one works. And now you'll be using mental ray. And if I render out, it'll actually show a little bit differently too. You'll notice how it renders out differently. That's just how mental ray does things. There's also all these specific materials here. So I'm going to hit reuse geometry because the geometry isn't changing at all. Camera angle might, so I'm not going to touch my look at it. Alright, so I'm going to actually start off with his armor, which is all this floaty stuff, as you can see. Now, normally you would say, oh look, well now we go to standard. But no, you actually want to go to arch and design. Now, realize this is an architecture material, meaning you want to use this on hard surfaces, not on organic surfaces. If you have organic surfaces, which I will go back to later, you want to use standard. But with mental ray, if you have hard surfaces such as armor, you want to use arch and design. So hit OK. And I actually have to apply this material first because I have a blank material set up. And now you'll notice how he has this really weird shine going on. That's actually how arch and design is set up by default. So let's set the reflectivity to 0. And you'll notice it's flat again. So, as before, you can set this up so that shows either the color, normals, etc., etc., etc. So first of all, I'm actually going to set the normals first because it's really cool to see the normals when you're looking through your design. So go set it up the same way. You just got to find the bitmaps once again. So I actually took all of his all the channels out of the control map to make separate textures. That's only because I did not realize that there was a way in which you could tell maps specifically to pull out textures from a channel. I now know how to do that, so this is actually kind of superfluous. But if you go through the effort and do it like this, then you can. So that since his armor normals back up, and you can actually see his normal maps now. Impressive. Especially if you compare it to what was there before. A lot of detail. Anyways. So let's actually go up here now. Go to color from the diffuse lot, bitmap, select his diffuse map, which is this one. And give it a second, and it should show his armor color. Ta-da! Now, it looks very bland, so let's bump up this reflectivity. Now, there's two ways to handle reflectivity, actually. You can either just manually do it, or you can use, in Halo 4 actually, if you separate the control map, you'll notice that there is a gloss map that goes along with it. But right now, you have the color map, which is what you want to use as a spec map. So just find the spec map, which I have somewhere here. There it is. And it'll show up. And the gloss map, the glossiness, the bitmap, find gloss. And now you just want to set reflectivity. Normally I don't like reflectivity too high, so I usually set something in the mid-ranges, such as 0.5, 0.6. I'm going to use 0.6 for the sake of this tutorial. I don't know if it's actually going to show properly, so let me actually use 1. Using cartoon design is a little bit tricky at times, so you might mess up, like I do quite often. I don't really like how Halo 4 handles gloss in some areas, so I'm actually going to get rid of this gloss map here. You notice how shiny it suddenly got. I'm going to set the reflectivity to 0.6 on the gloss to 0.5. What that does, it dulls out how sharp. First of all, it gives it reflectivity, and you'll see it with this little display right here. And by lowering the glossiness, it actually flattens out how sharp the reflections are. So if I hit 0.4, you'll notice how it flattens out. 0.3, but I like 0.5 because it has nice balance between shine and dull. And it's very nice. You also want to go down to the BDRF section, which is right here. You want to end up changing these settings slightly just so it fits your style. I like just changing this to 2 on the curve shape. And it makes the reflections show up in a different angle when looking at the screen. Now, I know that if you've looked at the Didac's body in Halo 4, you'll notice that there's a lot of glowy stuff going on with it. So, what you want to do is actually go to self-illumination and activate it. Now, it's by default white, and it's just like dull and blah. If I just pick it up, oh look, it's completely messing up the texture. That's not what we want. So we go to filter. Okay, so turns out I was just using the wrong bitmap. So instead of using CC, I'm supposed to be using the illumination map. I go stupid now. And then just change the color to whatever the hell you want. For Didac, it's orange, because that's its color. And it should show up properly now. You'll see how it illuminates everything all of a sudden. And look, it looks so shiny. But you generally get the idea of what it's going to look like. So now I'm going to show you 2 different ways to handle lighting, actually. I normally use Omni lights, but that doesn't always help all the time. So what you want to do is go to lights up here, and go to standard because I don't know how to use volumetric. So with Omnis, I usually use either a 3 lighting setup or a 5 lighting setup. For 3, I would have 1 in front and 2 in back in the corners. Raise them up some and make it so this front one is actually casting a shadow by hitting the shadow spot. And generally that works pretty well. It looks nice and it gets some nice render results, but sometimes it's also not effective and it gives you some odd discrepancies in rendering. So I can also use a skylight, which is basically a global illuminating light. I just go to the Didact's body. So delete his hair. I'm not using his hair at all. And then render out. Ideally, this will look pretty nice as well. It'll have that more clay render type look to it. It'll also look far more realistic than if you were to use Omni lights. And ta-da! You have a very, very nice looking Didact. Except there are some discrepancies in his armor. But we can ignore that for now. And yeah, that's pretty much all you need to know. Thanks for watching, and I will see you again next time.